Good morning, everybody. Hello and welcome to the Oulton Park circuit, where the sun is shining and GT cars are about to start roaring around this Parkland circuit, which is one of the absolute driver favourites on the calendar for round number 2 on the British GT Championship, a series that kicked off at Silverstone a few weeks ago for the Silverstone 500. Today, though, a very different format. 2 60-minute sprint races in scorching hot temperatures. That ambient temperature is already up 4 degrees since morning warm-up, which was only an hour and a half or so ago, and it's set to keep climbing, meaning that the huge number of spectators who have piled into the circuit today will need to keep themselves topped up on the sun cream and on the ice cream as well, I suspect, to keep themselves cool as they enjoy a brilliant day of racing. Andy McEwen here in the commentary box, to be joined later on by David Addison, and down in the pit lane, Bryn Lucas, as we talk you through a day full of action. Qualifying on Saturday was certainly intriguing, as it often is around a circuit at which it is notoriously difficult to overtake, but a circuit that the drivers absolutely adore. It's got undulations, high-speed sections, blind corners, off-cambered corners, and those 2 technically demanding chicanes at Britons and Hislops, which can be good overtaking opportunities, particularly Hislops, as of course can at the final corner at Lodge Corner, where we've seen many a race decided, including here in British GT over recent years. It is a busy grid. We've got cars making their way down onto the track, although one car isn't making its way towards the grid, and that's the Daniel Lavery-driven Grange Racing by FSR Aston Martin, which was supposed to be starting midway through the GT4 field, but that car stuck in pit lane. Very much not stuck in the pit lane, though, getting themselves stuck into the action on the grid are David Addison and Bryn Lucas.
You've just missed us dancing, because we're largely entertained by the Army Engagement Ensemble that are just behind us here. Now, David, Oulton Park, it's twisty, it's narrow, it's a big challenge, and the sun is baking down the whole time.
Yeah, it's going to be a challenge for drivers for lots of reasons. Partly, as you suggest, the temperatures inside the car, and partly because although Oulton Park hasn't shrunk over the years, cars have got wider. It's not that easy to overtake. So, you know, an overtaking manoeuvre is well earned, and some of it could be done on the pit stops. You know, a good pit stop, and if you're clever, you can gain places, especially when you factor in the compensation times from Silverstone for the top 3.
That's right, and a nice little fact, and I know you know this, but the last 8 races here at Oulton Park have been won from pole position, and the car starting in pole position is Andrew Howard, and he hasn't had a win since Snetterton 2015.
And Ross Gunn, his co-driver, has never had a British GT win, so there are lots of reasons why they want to convert that pole into a race win. And yeah, a lot of the work could be done down to the first corner, Old Hall Corner, because if you can get in front and stay in front, obviously you're going to be in the pound seats then. So,
okay, they don't want to get overtaken, of course, but how do the other cars overtake at Oulton Park? As we say, it is twisty, it is narrow, it takes bravery, but it's not just down to that.
Lodge Corner behind you is one opportunity. You've got a fairly short straight, but it is possible into a slowish corner to go up the inside. The same is true of Old Hall, which is the first corner on the lap. But if you're really brave, you might have to get your elbows out and do it in different places. And there'll be a different style of overtaking, I think, between the first stint, where you've got the AMs, and the second stint, where you've got effectively the pro drivers, because they might be a little bit more brave.
A bit more finesse, perhaps, as well. Andy, it's setting itself up for quite a lovely one. There are a lot of drivers on the grid already, so I'm going to find some GT3s. I'll be back in just a few moments.
Excellent stuff. So whilst Bryn goes and tops up the tan and gets some breaking news stories maybe from the grid, we await the arrival still of this 27 Aston Martin on the grid. Looking out of the commentary box window, I can just see it moving. So that car has just been released from its pit area. But whether it makes it around to start from the grid or the pit lane, we'll have to wait and see. Brilliant atmosphere down on the grid, though. And it's a busy grid. Lots of VIPs, team members, and a little bit of music to be enjoyed, as well as Andrew Howard and Rob Collard line up together on the front row of the grid. As the guys were saying, Andrew Howard hasn't won a race in this championship since 2015. That was the same year he claimed his last solo pole position, and he's hoping to repeat that this weekend. So Bryn Lucas is down there with actually the driver whose car will be starting second on the grid. And Bryn, this is a car that's had success here over recent years, isn't it?
It certainly is, and they're going to need some success this time around to get their championship kicked off. We were talking in the warm-up earlier on, Hugo, about that DNF at Silverstone and the knock-on effect it has for Oulton Park.
Yeah, I mean, we need big points today, which helps because we're in a good position to start. So hopefully, you know, maybe Rob can do something to him on. If not, we'll try and make some good points.
We do know that overtaking here is extremely, extremely tricky. How do you go about it? Where do you identify the places to overtake, and how do you position these manoeuvres?
I feel like you've just got to, if there's a use traffic to maybe get a move, and you know, if there's a chance, you just got to go for it. Obviously, he's quite experienced, Ross Gunn, so it's not going to be easy, but I think we can do something.
Very, very best of luck. He is very experienced, as Hugo says, but also is his teammate in this car because, well, Rob Collard knows this place like the back of his hand, doesn't he? Now, we're going to head a little bit further back to another one of the title favourites, and that is Jared Roberski, who's currently doing an interview with the circuit at the moment. I'm going to try and jump in and grab an interview with his story. Now, very quick, you two, in many people's eyes, are championship contenders, and yet you need to move forward from here, but some good points in the bag already.
Yeah, I mean, we have the success penalty for this race. We make it a little bit more tricky, but we're ahead of everyone else in the championship. So we're in a good place. It's about keeping it consistent. It's tight around here in these big cars, but it's about consistent point that wins it in the end.
We know what Alex can do around this place. He is quick. He's a very, very quick am, and often, as they say, you're only as good as your am, and he's a very good starting point.
Yeah, 100%. We're in a good place. P4 on the grid, the other Lambo just in front, so hopefully we can tag along with the front two and keep going.
Does the SRO GT Academy competition element play on your mind at all as well for your own individual performance?
It does. It's a big prize. The competition's strong, so it's important for us to have a good stint average. So obviously it's all on myself, so that's the important part about it, is making sure that we have a good race stint.
Best of luck. Now, the competition I mentioned, by the way, is for a whopping prize. It's a seat at the CrowdStrike Spa 24 2027. So the winner of the SRO GT Academy gets a seat in that car, along with the other continents champions as well. So or winners as well. So it's a really, really important competition. Andy, I'm going to dive off further down there to the back of the grid to the GT4s, and I'll see who I can grab.
Yes, easy to forget, actually, that Charles is a silver driver, not a gold-graded driver. So really impressive, the result that they were able to get out of Silverstone last time out. And they will be starting this race from 6th on the grid. So a couple of GT4 stories to go over. We've seen already the 27 Aston Martin. We don't know what the issue was for that car, but it looks like they will be starting from the pit lane behind, in fact now in front of, the 84 Mahiki McLaren. That is also a pit lane starter, and that is because they carried over too many sets of tyres from Silverstone. All teams are allowed to carry over 2 full sets of tyres from the previous event. They carried over more than that. They've used more than that this weekend, so they've been given a pit lane start. It's a new car after the original was very badly damaged in testing. They've had an engine change. It's been a busy build-up to the weekend, and they'll be starting from the pit lane. Pole position, though, in GT4, Innovation Racing. They were on top at Silverstone, and Bryn Lucas, they're hoping to continue that form into Oulton Park.
Yeah, that's right. They were a bit surprised by your performance and form at Silverstone, weren't you?
A little bit, but yeah, I mean, we've shown with Adley's qualifying and my qualifying being P3 for race 2, it wasn't a fluke, so we're still here showing what we're capable of. We're not here today about, so we're enjoying it, and we're, well, as we're quite clearly taking a fight to the big boys with Century alongside us in P2. It's a tough competition, definitely.
Chomp is alongside you, so hopefully not chomping out positions from you. Nicely done, I thought. You put the race suit on a few moments ago and you went, oh, it's warm. Is that something you have to think about inside the car?
A little bit, yeah, but it's also the fact I forgot all my suntan lotion, so I'm probably red like a lobster at the moment. So I'm regretting my life choices at the moment. But no, it is going to get very hot in the car. Thankfully, the Jeanetta's got a good air conditioning unit. I think a lot of the GT4s nowadays do as well. But it's going to be a massive workout on both the drivers and the car this weekend. I mean, this is going to be the cool of the 2 races, so we could end up struggling quite a bit race 2, but we'll find out when we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Yeah, absolutely. Good luck for the race there to Thomas Holland. Let's just go further back here, and I want to have a quick word with Will Oulton. We heard from him earlier on in the warm-up as well, in the shakedown. Will, you guys are in a really, really good position on the grid, and hopefully move forward from your own perspective.
Absolutely, that's the goal. I'm excited for today. I think hopefully some luck in the air, but I think we've got a good package, and yeah, like you said, good spot on the grid, ready to go.
Tell me a bit about your driver pairing then, how well you work together, yourself and Jessica Hawkins.
Yeah, I mean, right from the first test, I think we've worked amazingly together. We're both here to try and win it. We share that same mindset, and I think that's absolutely fantastic. So yeah, Jess in first. I've no doubt she'll hand the car over in a good place, and then I'll try and see what we can do from there.
Looking around the grid, who do you think the main challenges are going to be? I know you've got to move forward. You've got Thomas Holland there, you've got Chomp ahead as well, but anywhere else that you're looking over your shoulder nervously?
Yeah, I mean, the McLaren's always fast. I think Chomp's going to be quick, no pit stop penalty. I think they're probably one to watch for this race. I think our time is race 2.
Well, we wish you the very best luck. Andy, just incidentally, by the way, the Mahiki Racing Aston McLaren, sorry, the Artura. The reason that's starting from the pit lane is actually because of sending over qualifying tyres. They ran an extra set of qualifying tyres, which means they've got a pit stop start. It's not to do with the engine change or anything like that.
Yes, thank you, Bryn. So, yes, quite a few issues that they've faced over the build-up to this weekend. They're hoping to put that all behind them. David Addison has hot-footed it up to the commentary box with not a bead of sweat on his forehead, the athlete that he is. Intriguing race ahead, isn't it, here? Rob Collard, Andrew Howard, a race to get into Old Hall Corner first. What do we think is going to happen?
It is going to be fascinating, you're right. And Rob Collard has always been a great starter, whether it's been in GT cars, whether it's been in touring cars, or indeed going back to his early days on the ovals. I would not be surprised if Rob didn't get the drop and lead into Old Hall. And then we've got a proper race on our hands, haven't we?
Absolutely so. And of course, then they'll get into the traffic part way through. That presents opportunities for the drivers to overtake as well. It is tough to pass here, but it can be done. We've seen it in the past. You've just got to be brave. That's easy for us to say from the comfort of the commentary box, but a lot of the drivers towards the front of this grid have had plenty of experience of this.
But there is a mindset. If you go into a venue thinking, I can't overtake around here, you won't overtake. If you think, I can do it, then you'll find a way. And we know from previous seasons, as you say, in other categories, that it can be done.
I've seen Rob Collard come from outside the top 20 on a British touring car grid here to finish on the podium. This is a slightly different beast, I'll grant you, but it can be done. And if anyone's up to the challenge, Rob is your man. He won this equivalent race here in Hugo Cook actually last year. In fact, Rob has won one race at Oulton Park for the last 2 years. He won't want that streak to end as the green flag lap now gets underway. It's a 60-minute race with a mandatory pit stop and driver change for every car. For GT3, that must come within the 22nd and 32nd minute of the race. For GT4, between minutes 28 and 38. We have the compensation time to be added for a few of our front-running cars. Actually, the second Barwell Lamborghini has 5 seconds extra to be spent on top of the standard minimum pit stop time. We'll cover that in more detail a little bit later on. So, pole position within the GT4 Pro-Am class for the Toro Verde GT Jonathon, there we go, with the Innovation example starting on outright and Silver Cup pole. Optimum were on top in Silver Am within GT3, the double race winners in GT4 actually from last year, that driver pairing, whilst the Beach Team Aston Martin claimed a double pole position. They'll start from the front of the race 2 grid later on this afternoon as well. So Andrew Howard starts from pole for the first time since 2015 alongside Rob Collard, with Mark Warren and Alex Martin on that second row together. Martin with 5 extra seconds to be served in the pit lane, 7 extra seconds for Simon Orange's Orange Racing by JMH McLaren, which starts 5th, and Jonathan Beeson's BMW has 10 seconds to be served as the highest finishing point scorer at Silverstone last time. Then it's Mark Smith and Morgan Tilbrook together on the 8th row of the grid. Tilbrook had a spin yesterday in qualifying at Lodge Corner. Kevin Say comes from 9th position on a track at which he's gone well in the past. Likewise, Ian Loggy in the second of the 2Cs cars from 10th. Then it's Duncan Cameron's Lamborghini ahead of Cameron Campbell's Rodin Ferrari, and Matt Topham at the tail end of the GT3 grid for Mahiki Racing. Then into GT4, Innovation Racing. Winners at Silverstone, pole sitters at Oulton Park alongside the Jack Collins started Century BMW. Jessica Hawkins looked quick in the MK Racing Aston on Saturday, and Luke Shaw starts the Toro Verde Ginetta from 4th. Daniel Lavery and Josh Stanton are together then on row number 3 of GT4 ahead of James Townsend and Ian Duggan's Toro Verde Porsche. Ernie Graham in the BMW that he shares with Colin Turkington shares the back row with John Hartshorn. So that's the grid, David. Lots of storylines to unfold over the next 60 minutes or so. Settle in, everyone. This could be very, very fun.
First thing, keep out of trouble at Old Hall. We have seen in the past there that if people get a little bit too committed, it can all go wrong. The cars then now making the run up through Druids. They've gone up Clay Hill, past the water tower into this double apex right-hander, and out the other side of that they'll get themselves into that 2x2 formation. Kevin Say needs points out of this race. We've been saying over the weekend how it was a pointless Silverstone, effectively the car out at the first corner after contact with its teammate. So Kevin Say, Ben Green need some points out of all of this. This is the Jack Collins BMW Century Motorsport car. Century, another busy team like WSR, having been operating at Snetterton over the weekend, although in Carrera Cup GB in the case of Century, Nathan Freak's team. But as they come through Lodge Corner, the safety car, the pace car as it is, peels into the pit lane, and round 2 of the British GT Championship is ready to get underway. They rumble their way up towards the timing line. The lights change. It's going to be go now, and Andrew Howard floors the throttle. So does Rob Collard alongside him. They go toe-to-toe down towards Old Hall. Collard gets the drop. He's going to go all the way around the outside, and he just gets his car in front. As you look back at there, the McLaren of Mark Warren, and there's drama in the background. Morgan Tilbrook has gone around. GT4 cars scatter. There was another GT3 car on the grass as well, so it did kick off at Old Hall Corner. Well, some did get through without strife, but not all.
And as you predicted, Rob Collard on his toes on the start there, got ahead into Old Hall and had the momentum around the outside. Brilliant stuff. And he's got that track position that everyone's been talking about. Andrew Howard now has to try and find a way through. He ranges up behind the Lamborghini into the Shell hairpin. Mark Warren is third, fourth for Alex Martin at the moment. In the second of the Barwell Lamborghinis, holding his grid position. But job done so far, part one of the job done for Rob Collard. Now he's just got to stay there for the next 59 minutes or so.
Yeah, easy peasy, isn't it? But don't forget that Mark Warren is now on the tail of Andrew Howard. So this might give Collard another opportunity just to edge away slightly because Andrew Howard can't go after him. He's busy defending that second place as Jared Weberski looks on. And was it his Lamborghini with Alex Martin at the wheel that went round? We saw the McLaren of Morgan Tilbrook, and I've got a horrible feeling it was Alex Martin who was the other dark blue car caught up in that. And that expression from Jared Weberski, the SRO GT Academy leader, rather suggests that he knows his car's dropped down.
I think it's still there, David. Fourth position, 78, isn't it, as it comes through Druid. So Martin's
yes, you're
okay.
right.
Not sure who it was then that got involved. Maybe it was the, well, find out, I suppose,
Lamborghini Mercedes,
yeah,
maybe number 15, that's another blue car. We'll piece it together on the replay in a moment as they come up to the end of lap one. So have a look on the outside, because there is Ian Loggie's blue BMW, and Morgan Tilbrook turns in. There's the hip and shoulder. He gets turned around by the paddock car. And yeah, Loggie was the one going off in avoidance. So it was Mark Smith, I think, that was the catalyst for all of that.
Yeah, 3 into 1 didn't go. There was contact between Smith and Tilbrook first, and then Tilbrook sort of ricocheted off the Century BMW, which was the final nail in the coffin.
Kevin Say did a remarkable job of avoiding all of that. Fair play to him. So, the end of lap one, it was Rob Collard leading from Andrew Howard, from Mark Warren and Alex Martin fourth. Simon Orange is fifth, and that BMW sixth. Jonathan Beeson, it's kicking off in GT4 as Jack Collins there dives up the inside to try to get himself ahead of James Townsend's Aston Martin. Job done.
Yes, down in fifth position until that move was Collins, having started on the front row. He went wide at Old Hall to avoid Tilbrook, who's just come sailing back up the inside of him into Island Bend, and he was off again at Britain, so a lively opening lap for Collins, and he's got work to do. Contact there into the Shell hairpin. Townsend given a bit of assistance from Luke Shaw, who's moved up from the One-Make Ginetta series this year, where he was known for getting stuck in, and doing the same again there at Shell.
Got to be careful though, because the last thing you need is to incur some damage and therefore have to have an extra pit stop to tape it all down. So Luke Shaw, as you say, getting into the back of James Townsend. He will say, James braked early, not my fault, Gov, nothing to do with me. But Luke Shaw now is trying to get himself back up ahead of James Townsend. So GT4 out right at the moment, being led by the number 74 Innovation Ginetta, and this is the BMW getting it all wrong. Jack Collins down at Hislop's on that opening lap.
Yeah, just carried a bit too much speed into the corner, and look at the ground, he lost 2 positions. He's regained one of them since, but a bit of a nightmare first lap, having started on the front row, and really from the very first corner things were going wrong. So it's Ginetta from Aston Martin in GT4, Innovation Racing holding the lead, but Jess Hawkins going well in second.
Absolutely right, and Morgan Tilbrook now trying to pick his way through the GT4 traffic and play catch-up against the class opposition. So a much faster, demonstrably quicker McLaren against the GT4 cars he sweeps by. So that puts Morgan Tilbrook now up into 14th place overall, and briefly it interrupts the GT4 lead battle. But don't forget that Ginetta, of course, has got a whole heap of penalties to serve by way of compensation time. 10 for winning the race and 15 for being the winning silver. So 25 seconds, it's going to have a really tough job on its hands.
Yes, but that is instead of carrying the ballast that the Silver Cup entries normally would have carried. And actually on a day like this, David, having a lighter car ain't a bad thing. This was always a difficult place to carry the weight at anyway, and in these temperatures it would have had a real effect on tyre wear. So, OK, they'll lose ground in the pit stops, but they've got the track position, they're pulling clear of the rest of the field, and they might take that.
You win some, you lose some. Rob Collard then is the race leader by 1.111 last time. And it is over Andrew Howard with Mark Warren in third place. That's Kevin Say's Mercedes, who are on board with the Macanese driver now going up Clay Hill under the footbridge. Kevin Say on the back of Duncan Cameron, another local driver, Duncan, based from Liverpool, and going up towards Druids. Kevin Say turns through the first part. There's the second apex over the brow. You duck as you go under that rather low, it always feels, vehicle bridge, and then down towards Lodge Corner, hard on the brakes, down through the gears, turn in, and then the road drops away.
Yeah, and then look at that over the crest. You can see the back of the car getting light as he went over the crest, just as he's trying to apply full throttle. A really challenging end to the lap, but one of the better overtaking opportunities if you can be close enough either on corner entry or corner exit. This then for 8th position at the moment, and the Lamborghini hanging on for now. Lamborghini and Mercedes doing battle into Cascades.
The lead car, Rob Collard's Lamborghini, has done the fastest lap of the race, so he's getting away. And the other thing we just need to tick off by way of admin is that first corner incident is under investigation. No real surprise there. Morgan Tilbrook will be decidedly nonplussed about that. But he is working his way back into the mix, and he's now got 8 seconds, give or take, to make up against these two, and then he's caught back up to the GT3 line.
Indeed so. This is Cameron Campbell in the Rodin Ferrari. Great to have the Rodin name in British GT these days. Single-seater expert team, really, but making the move into GT racing with the Ferrari. Again, a great addition to the championship. Still learning the car, aren't they, really? And I'm sure we'll see them moving up the grid as the year goes on. Ian Loggy, of course, well used to being a lot further up the order than this, but struggling to find a way past the Italian car for now.
But he's going to have a look coming down towards his lops then. He pulls out and pulls back in again, just not quite able to make that move. Ian Loggy is another local these days, although he's Scottish by birth. He is based around the Cheshire area these days, so it's a home circuit for Ian Loggy, and he's being held up, isn't he now? Cameron Campbell racing here for the first time, still learning about, as you say, the car, the team and the circuit, and Ian Loggy needs to bite the bullet here and try and have a full send up the inside at Lodge. Otherwise he's just going to sit there and lose time lap after lap. The move starts now. Ian Loggy commits, does he? Thinks about it, has another think, looks to the inside, sort of up the inside, but no, couldn't really commit to that fully, and so he was lucky not to get his nose chopped off.
Very. He hadn't really fully committed, had he? And I don't think Campbell was sure whether he could turn in, but the 2022 British GT champion stays in the wheel tracks of the Ferrari for the time being. That's his best chance, I think, at Lodge Corner. He looks quicker, but he's just got to time that run down towards the final turn a little bit better. Ben Green watches on anxiously from the pit lane to see how that car will handle the next few minutes.
Yeah, he's the driver that will take over from Kevin Say, number 18, on the run now down towards Island Bend. Again, Ian Loggy sort of telegraphs it quite early, doesn't he? He doesn't sort of dive out at the last moment. Went to the inside, hoping, I think, that enough grunt would carry him through. Now there, up the inside of Ernie Graham, is Dan Laver, is Aston Martin. That's from the pit lane start, don't forget. Did we get to the bottom of why it was in the pits?
Not yet, no.
But it is making progress. So that's, whatever the problem was, is cured, and the pace looks good, doesn't it?
Yes, that's a job maybe for Bryn Lucas if he can find out what's going on down in that end of the pit lane. But a good move made. The Aston Martins in both classes have looked quick this weekend, and that 27 car could yet be a contender, especially if we do end up with a safety car, which is known to occur here at Oulton Park, and would bunch them all right back together. They make their way through Shell. Lavery ahead of Ernie Graham, and Graham now slipping back perhaps into the clutches of Blake Anglis.
The race leader has just gone over the timing line as you look at Ernie Graham, who is running in GT4, of course, so the GT4 car's closer to a road car than a race car. GT3 closer to a race car than a road car is the easy way of thinking about this. And Ernie Graham racing here for the first time, goes now down towards the Hislop chicane. Now look at this, Morgan Tilbrook in the space of about 2 laps has gobbled up nearly 8 seconds to put himself on the back of Ian Loggy. And if Ian wasn't committed before, he needs to be now. Tilbrook right up with him. So Cameron Campbell, in fairness, doing a good job of defending this 11th place. But Ian Loggy now has got to make the move. Otherwise, he's going to get jumped by Tilbrook. This is going to be quite a battle.
Yes, it is. Tilbrook was about the 4th quickest car on track last time, so he's got pace in that McLaren, but that pace now very much being stunted by the fact he's stuck behind the battling pair ahead. So Ferrari, Mercedes and McLaren, they will all generate their lap time in subtly different ways because of the design of the cars, the balanced performance applied to them all, and how can Tilbrook now utilise this clear pace advantage to find a way by.
Just wonder whether there's any benefit in Morgan Tilbrook's team playing a little bit with the strategy. Don't bring him in right at the start of the window. Give him one clear lap at least and see whether that will be of any benefit. The trouble of that is that you're then up against the incoming pro driver, but their outlap might not be as quick as their first flying, so could you gain a 10th or 2? Because Tilbrook is as stuck behind Loggy as Loggy has been behind Campbell for the last handful of laps. The McLaren, I would offer you, is the fastest of the 3 cars, but he just can't find a gap.
Yeah, absolutely so. Morgan Tilbrook in his 6th season now racing a McLaren in British GT. It's hard to believe that, really. I saw him start his racing career about 6 or 7 years ago, and he's come on leaps and bounds since then. One of the quickest AM drivers in the championship, but now he's going to have a test of his racecraft. Carries good speed through Druids look, but we know Loggy is pretty strong at this part of the circuit. He's continuing to range up behind the Ferrari. Another half-hearted look to the inside for Loggy, more in defence perhaps than attack, and he succeeds in keeping the McLaren behind for now.
But Tilbrook does look really wound up here, and he wants to get on with the job. Don't forget Loggy was delayed by avoiding a spinning Tilbrook. So they're both trying to play catch-up, but Loggy is absolutely stuck. And it's not like he doesn't know the Mercedes. He has driven that car in seasons past, but Cameron Campbell, to his credit, is doing what he needs to do. He's putting the car exactly on the right part of the racetrack to keep them behind, and Loggy makes a mistake. Does that now give Tilbrook a chance?
Maybe not. It was a decent exit despite the wobble there for Loggy, but Morgan is certainly asking some questions of the former champion, and it's rare really to see an Ian Loggy mistake these days, but just had a little twitch on the rear. And we've seen this, David, in a few of the support races this weekend. In the high temperatures, corner entry into Cascade seems to be a challenge. There's a big bump on the braking zone, and in these temperatures it's catching them out.
That is Dan Lavery in GT4 going ahead of Ian Duggan for 20th place overall, but Ian Duggan comes back at him. Nearly got into the back of the Aston Martin there, but the Cayman not quite able to make that move stick as they drop down towards Cascades. Ian Duggan for Toro Verde GT, but I think he's going to have to settle now for the fact that Dan Lavery, having moved ahead from his pit lane start, is going to get away. Up front, 3 seconds, split Rob Collard from Andrew Howard as the race leaders. Your best placed GT4 car is still the Ginetta of Hadley Simpson. And in this battle pack, still for 11th, 12th and 13th, it is Ferrari specialist Cameron Campbell hanging on a position. Tilbrook, though, now with a good exit off Druids, might be able to go to the inside against Loggy, who covers that off. Tilbrook to the outside line, there's no way through there. Loggy again looks up the inside to try to get past the Ferrari, and now Tilbrook does get a good run off the corner. He's going to be on the outside line coming out of Deer Leap. That's the inside for Old Hall Corner. Morgan Tilbrook should get this done as they go down towards turn 1. This is for 11th place, and through he goes. Morgan Tilbrook makes that move stick. That was good driving.
Yeah, really good. That was all pressure, wasn't he? He forced Loggy to defend into Lodge, and then Loggy outbraked himself fractionally, couldn't rotate the car, and Tilbrook with the wider entry carried the speed over Deer's Leap. So he's got past the Mercedes, now to catch the Ferrari.
But just look how much ground that has lost the pair while they were squabbling. It was, what, 2 corners of battling, but that Ferrari has disappeared by about 6 lengths up the road. So now Tilbrook, briefly in clear air, won't be long before he catches back up to Cameron Campbell. Well, we know that Morgan Tilbrook can overtake, and Ian Loggy will be frustrated if he sees that McLaren jump past thinking, well, why couldn't I have done it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, although maybe an opportunity could arise if you could stick with Tilbrook, then when Morgan inevitably goes on the attack, maybe Loggy could find his way through with him as well. It's going to be intriguing to follow that battle over the next few minutes. Here's your GT4 leader, meanwhile, and Hadley Simpson with a pretty healthy lead, David. Yeah,
it's looking good, this, isn't it? But it has to be in order to try to overcome some of the compensation time in the pits. This is the fight for second. Jessica Hawkins ahead here of Jack Collins as they sweep now up through Shell Oil's corner. Jessica Hawkins doing a good first stint. The BMW tucked up behind. Jack Collins, who's another graduate of the Ginetta GT scene, and Chomp, the BMW, with the teeth at the front of it, launching itself over the curves. This is one of the great delights of GT4 racing, the different shapes and sizes you get. The Aston Martin very much looking like a GT car. The BMW M4 towering over it, looks like a touring car, complies, of course, with GT4 regulations. Different ways of attacking the GT4 problem, if you like.
Indeed, so in different ways of therefore attacking the track as well.
Yes.
The BMW looks like it can take a bit more curb, but maybe the Aston Martin gets off the corner slightly better. Collins, though, showing some really good pace. Remember, he was 5th at one point after going off at the first corner in avoidance of Morgan Tilbrook. This is now a battle for second position, and within about 3 seconds or so of the race lead. Is he going to have a go, I wonder, into Lodge Corner? Hawkins is hovering around the middle of the road, leaves an inviting gap, but Jack was just a length or so too far back.
I don't know whether it's because it's race 1 and they need the cars for later, but there is an awful lot of sort of indecision, isn't it, in the moves. It's, you know what they're trying to do, and it's almost like you can see the car thinking, should I, shouldn't I? No, I'll leave it this time. So maybe when you get the cars in the hands of in GT3 terms, pro drivers later on, it might be a different look. But right now, Jessica Hawkins in GT4 doing a good job, hanging on to that second place. Drops down through Cascades, we're on to lap 9. Now, don't forget, we've got pit windows to think about. For the GT3 cars, they open at the 22-minute mark, and we've had just about 15. We're not there yet, but we're getting closer.
Yes, and the timing of that pit stop could be crucial, as you alluded to with Tilbrook. If you pit early or late, it can allow you sometimes to leapfrog ahead of some of the traffic. They are a reminder of the regulations. It's a 60-minute race. You must pit within your pit window for your class, and there's a minimum pit stop time of 70 seconds for GT3, 100 seconds for GT4, plus any compensation time that you have to serve. So the 24 car that we're right on board with has no time, and there's contact at Lodge. Around goes Campbell. That was off the nose of Tilbrook's McLaren. And sadly, another drama for Tilbrook and the Ferrari stranded in the middle of the track.
And you could argue that that was in the post, because when it's so difficult to overtake and there's limited amounts of room, Morgan Tilbrook was always going to have to force the issue. He's gone through, that'll get looked at by the stewards, and right now the Ferrari is stranded at Lodge Corner, so yellow flags are waving, but that car is absolutely in the middle of the road. And looking out of our window, I can tell you that Cameron Campbell has not yet got going, and this is going to be a bit of a drama for race control. Cars are on their way. Peter Daly, the race director, is giving him time to fire up the car. Is out now of Island Bend towards Shell goes Morgan Tilbrook, but with yellow flags at Lodge Corner for the race leaders this time, and the GT4 traffic going through, it is going to be a bit of a heart-in-mouth moment.
And just as the GT3 leaders have started negotiating the GT4 traffic, so it's even more congested at the back end of the track. I think he's reversed the car off the road now, thank goodness, just as the race leader arrives at Lodge Corner. On your screen, though, Tilbrook, well, he's made the move, he's got the clean air, now he really does need to try and get a move on, especially if that is going to be investigated. There is the road in for a hurry, still trying to find its way back onto the road. He'll have lost the best part of a lap, I think, by the time he does. Yeah,
he let it roll downhill to get out of the way, and then now there's a gap in the traffic. Cameron Campbell has rejoined, but yes, as you say, he's gone a lap down, and he will be very disappointed, to say the very least, about that. The incident, though, that I'll come back to it in a second. Let's just look at this again. Tilbrook to the inside. He does commit. He's there. He can't exactly disappear at that point.
He was up the curb, wasn't he? And I don't think he was overshooting the corner, so there'll be a bit of a story to tell there. Here's the Tilbrook eye view. So we get to the inside, but I think he's got the car stopped for the corner. He's running around the curve on the inside, and it was just a bit of a pinch point, wasn't it? Really unfortunate.
Yeah, I think Morgan Tilbrook is perhaps more sinned against than sinning in all of that, but thankfully we're not driving standards advisors or the race director. That's Peter Daly's role. Michael Verger's former single-seater star and sports car star. He's the DSA. We'll see what pans out from all of that. But yeah, I'm not really sure what else Morgan Tilbrook could do, because when they onboard at one stage, he was fully alongside. You could not see the Ferrari.
No, definitely not. And as long as you don't overshoot the corner yourself, normally you've got a good argument, haven't you? We'll wait and see what comes of it. Meanwhile, this is the GT4 battle. Not yet for the race lead, but Jack Collins keeps on coming. Can't get past Jess Hawkins, though. Jess Hawkins became the first ever female winner of a TCR race here a few years ago, and she won that by defending busily for 25 minutes. It was a great defensive performance in a very different car, admittedly, but on this track she has history, and again she's proving difficult to pass today.
That BMW riding the curbs, look, as you see a charging Simon Orange come down towards Lodge. Number 44 BMW is the one he's battling against. 40 Aston is GT4 car a lap down. Behind them you've got Mark Smith. Mention of Mark Smith in the there in the background. Try again, black and purple McLaren prompts me to mention that the incident at turn 1, no further action. So it's been looked at, racing incident, and so Morgan Tilbrook has got that one off the list, and so too Mark Smith, but we'll wait and see if anything comes of that clash between Tilbrook and Campbell down at Lodge Corner. So Rob Collard is your leader now by 4 seconds from Andrew Howard. Interesting, isn't it, that the qualifying one-lap pace not being really matched here, because Andrew in the course of the stint has fallen away a little bit. You're looking there at number 40 Aston Martin, which remains the James Townsend car, and that's 4th in Pro-Am within GT4. Mark Smith going nicely, 7th overall in the McLaren, got away without any damage.
Over the hill top they go. It's been an intriguing second half to the race here, I think, because yes, Collard has had the pace advantage over Andrew Howard, but in qualifying at least, Ross Gunn yesterday was about nearly 4 tenths quicker than Hugo Cook, who will jump into car 63. So there's a chance this dynamic could switch around after the pit stops, and they are imminent, aren't they? We're getting towards that pit window. Here comes Collins, meanwhile. A change for second in GT4 might be imminent. Goes to the outside at Lodge, and again looks for the switchback, the better traction, and maybe the overlap, but no. The Aston Martin wriggles off the corner well, and Jess Hawkins hangs on again.
Even a move at Old Hall has to start at Lodge, doesn't it? Because you need that good line through Lodge Corner, the inside for Old Hall, but it doesn't work. As down now towards the right-hander of Cascades, we are looking at the back of the Aston on board with 24 BMW. Let's just catch up on a bit more news. Gets to the pit lane. Bryn Lucas is there.
Yeah, thanks, David. I saw on one of the shots that there was some smoke coming out the back of the BMW, so I raced down to the garage. They're certainly concerned. They're looking at all the data. Certainly at the moment, nothing is showing to be a problem, but there is certainly as well smoke coming out the back. So Templeton looking on, the team scratching their heads, and I'm not sure if this is a game of waiting for an issue to develop.
On the pit stop, won't they, as well? You've just seen Rob Collard get past the BM. and now he goes ahead of Jessica Hawkins. There's the speed differential between the GT3 leader and the quick GT4 cars. We're on lap 13, and for Rob Collard's purposes, we've now done about 21 minutes, and the pit window opens at 22, so he could be coming to the end of his stint next time around.
Yeah, next lap I think will be his opportunity. Hawkins wide at his lots. This is Jack Collins' opportunity, but he's on the wrong side of the road into Tilbrook. 2 wheels on the grass, and has Hawkins survived that one? I think she has. Just a slight under rotation turning into his lots, and Jack Collins thought he had the chance, but as is so often the case here at Oulton Park, the inside for one corner becomes the outside of the next, and there's still no way past the Aston Martin.
But that BMW is looking quicker. Let's see whether or not there's going to be a change. They're now down towards the right of Lodge corner. Behind them, though, look, you've got second and third in GT3, Andrew Howard and Mark Warren running together. The Aston Martin from pole position is in danger of being slightly impeded here, look, unless he can really commit. Andrew Howard, the BMW with exemplary driving, gets well out of the way. Andrew Howard goes to the inside of Jessica Hawkins, his co-driver of last year. Mark Warren splits the GT4 traffic, but he's going to lose a little bit of ground. He's on the pace now, getting past the GT4 Aston downhill, but Andrew Howard pulls away by a length or so.
Interesting there, you could see Jess Hawkins tapping the brakes down the avenue. Sometimes drivers do that to make sure they haven't got any pad knockoff, the great discs and pads becoming separated, but I actually think she was trying to time the pass made by Mark Warren to make sure he'd cleared her by the time they got to Cascades. That was really heads-up driving, because if she'd have been stuck offline at Cascades, that would have held her up and might have presented another opportunity for Jack Collins to attack. Good driving that from Jess.
It was indeed, and there's not much that Jack Collins has not tried. I mean, he could not be closer, except now again he has to give way to Alex Martin to go storming past in 4th place, and what he now wants is to try to time his attack for when Jess Hawkins has to get out of the way. Over hilltop, doesn't give the Lamborghini vast amounts of room. There in the pit lane, though, is number 40 James Townsend's car. They've been pulling grass out on the front of that, so James has had a moment. That's not the routine stop, it's too early for that. Right, back on board. So now, look, you've got the Simon Orange McLaren between Jack Collins and Jess Hawkins. Really frustrating this. You're trying to have your own battle, but there are all these pesky, faster cars coming by.
Yes, when we talk about lap traffic, we often talk about the quicker car being delayed and how it can affect their race, but it has just as much of an effect on the cars being lapped, as we're seeing here graphically. Jack Collins struggling. Right, pit window open for GT3, and the leader David is in.
It's absolutely right. Rob Collard has just dived in. Time to perfection that. Also in is Andrew Howard, also in is Mark Warren. So they're the top 3 coming down the pit lane. So Rob Collard to give way to local hero Hugo Cook, comes from Northwich, just down the road. So Rob gets out. Busy weekend for the Collards. Ricky was racing touring cars, Rob here. And this is Andrew Howard coming down the pit lane to give way to Ross Gunn. Neither of these cars with extra compensation time in the pits, nor does number 90 Mark Warren. So that fight will continue. And the rest coming down the pit lane pretty much so far. Every GT3 car has taken the opportunity to come in, except I think Morgan Tilbrook has stayed out. I was questioning whether he might do that. And Morgan Tilbrook, yes, has not pitted, so he has gone for a lap of clear air.
Yes, there he is. Look, round Old Hall corner. You said that might be the case. He'd sort of got the clean air anyway, but maybe trying to avoid the congestion in the pit lane as well.
Yeah.
We've seen it's a tight pit lane, and there's no point maybe taking the risk coming in and getting blocked in to your pit base. This could be heads-up stuff from the team. Out goes Hugo Cook in the 63 car, which had a decent lead, didn't it, at the time of the pit window opening. The 70-second minimum pit stop time hopefully has been adhered to, and Hugo Cook very slow on the exit there, just trying to count down the seconds maybe. It looks as though Ross Gunn will get out in front of the number 90 car, so it's as you were, at least among the top 3.
But I think they've had a change for 4th place, because with Alex Martin now giving way to Jared Roberski, they had 5 extra seconds to serve. Martin Plowman, their number 9, has jumped ahead of 78. So that's one significant change within the order. And 44 BMW will fall back as well, because that had to serve an extra 10 seconds. So there has been a bit of shuffling, and that's because of the compensation times. Not that people are making bad pit stops and slow pit stops, it's because of the compensation time.
Yes, and given how tight the competition is, 5, 10, 15 seconds can make a big difference, as we've seen there. The 44 car losing 2 or 3 positions, I think, out of all of that. Through goes the GT4 leader then. Remember, the GT4 pit window doesn't open until 28 minutes into the race, so we're still a few minutes away from that. The battle for second in class still status quo, really. If anything, Jess Hawkins getting away. She really benefited from the traffic, didn't she? And she's maintained that gap.
And the GT4 pit window has not yet opened, so their battle carries on unaffected. But now we reset in GT3, with the exception of Morgan Tilbrook. We've got the same cars but different drivers, and we'll make sure as well that the obligatory pit stop time has been adhered to, because for the GT3 cars it was 70 seconds plus any compensation time. For GT4 it'll be 100. Morgan Tilbrook may elect to bail this time. Jack Collins then having to claw back the lost ground, as you see there, number 74, the GT4 leading Ginetta of Hadley Simpson, with Aaron Walker behind him now.
Indeed so. Rob Collard still showing as the driver of car 63. That will change, I'm sure. We saw Hugo Cook getting into the car. Ross Gunn then in the Aston Martin chasing him down, and I'm going to be watching that gap with interest to see whether Ross can continue that slight advantage in pace that he had from qualifying yesterday. GT4 scrap descends into the Hislop chicane. They are 6 seconds or so adrift of the class leader, Hadley Simpson, but remember, he has 25 extra seconds to serve in the pit lane, or that car does. Number 74, 10 seconds for winning outright in GT4 at Silverstone, and 15 seconds for being the silver winner, whereas Jack Collins' 24 car has no time to be served at all, so Chomp is in a good position.
Indeed, because Jessica Hawkins has a 10-second compensation and a 7 as well. Silverstone results plus silver compensation, so that's another car that's going to drop down. So yeah, Jack Collins, to pick up on Andy's point, doesn't really need to force the issue. Yeah, he wants to get past, but it's not vital. He's going to get the place on the pit stops. What he doesn't want to do is end up sitting behind the Aston for so long that he's running in so much hot air that it has a detrimental effect to the car. Good battle building up here. Martin Plowman is ahead of Jared Waberski, the young South African driver. Very rapid driver is Jared. Raced in Europe last year. He's going to do the CrowdStrike 24 Hours of Spa this season, but British GT is the main focus for the year. We understand from Bryn in the pits that 77, the Morgan Tilbrook McLaren, is staying out for as long as it can, just in the hope that a safety car might come and give them a bit of assistance, because really strategically now all they can do is roll the dice. Oh, mistake from Jess Hawkins. Collins tries to get up the inside, can't quite do it.
Yeah, you can get away with that a bit at Shell, though, because the banking is there to catch you. Drivers do carry a lot of speed into that corner. It's a challenging section of track. Again, Collins chomping up the curb there through Britain's. That BMW really does ride the curbs well, and that completely changes the racing line that you can take at various points of the circuit, and that, I think, is why he's gaining consistently in this middle sector.
Certainly aggressive, isn't it, this stint of Jack Collins, but Jess Hawkins doing a good job. Not the quickest car necessarily, but being able to be driven very well in this defensive way, not dirtily, but just in the right part of the racetrack. Every time Jack Collins wants to commit, Jess is already there and has covered off the line. Up towards the double apex right of Druids they go now. And a move at Lodge Corner starts here. Good exit by Jack Collins. Doesn't quite stay close enough though, just drops back fractionally.
Yeah, he's not quite close enough, therefore, to have a go into Lodge Corner. Going to be interesting to see where the 21 Aston Martin comes out in relation to the 74 Ginetta, actually, because by my calculations, 8 seconds shorter will be the 21's pit stop, but they're 7 seconds behind the 74 Ginetta, so that could be the scrap, really, to watch for what could be second place in stint number 2, as Hawkins, again, doesn't make friends with the apex.
No, and there was quite a lot of dabbing of the brakes in a straight line. Now, I know you mentioned it earlier on, and in the context of perhaps trying to time the overtake, but I wonder whether Jess might have a brake issue, and there's a little bit of pumping of the brakes there. This is Morgan Tilbrook, who is the notional leader, leading on the road as the car now goes towards Island Bend. You can see how bumpy it is, the vibration in the car. Tilbrook goes through, but is Jess Hawkins having to drive around a problem here? We'll send Bryn in the direction of Jess once she's got out of the car and can explain, but Jack Collins is right back on the tail of that number 21 Aston Martin.
Yeah, I know we keep banging on about the weather. Oh, as off goes the Ginetta number 24 at Island Bend. Did they survive that? I think sorry, not 24, 42, Luke Shaw,
yeah,
all the way around. They are leading at the moment in the Pro-Am element of GT4, but a grassy moment up at Island Bend won't help their cause. Yes, in these temperatures, though, managing your tyres, managing your brakes is key. And if you have got slightly overheating brakes, that will lead to a soft pedal. Maybe that's what Jess is fighting.
Jack Collins comes out of Knickerbrook. More battles up and down the order in GT4. This was a battle until Luke Shaw had his moment going in towards Island Bend. He was on the back of the Josh Stanton McLaren, and then exit stage right, Luke Shaw. Meanwhile, Jess Hawkins versus Jack Collins still tied together. This is for second in GT4, and the GT4 pit window is now open. So that's John Hartshorn in to morph into touring car race winner Ronan Pearson. Talking of touring car race winners, the 4 times champion Colin Turkington is getting on board Ernie Graham's BMW. The WSR run car, Dick Bennett's team that began hugely successfully in single-seater racing. Dick Bennett's association with BMW goes back to 1979 when he was a mechanic for Ron Dennis's Project 14, running an M1 in the Pro Car Series for Niki Lauda.
Wow.
Yawn with your mouth closed, Andy.
No. I enjoy a history lesson from you, David. It's part of what I've missed from working with you over the last few years. A brilliant team, we know, and they can prepare a BMW exceptionally well, but a GT spec BMW is a different beast, and they're still learning the car. The drivers are still learning this style of racing as well, but they are getting quicker every time they head out on track. Morgan Tilbrook continues to lead the way by 25.7 seconds, but that matters little because he owes us a pit stop. The fastest lap, by the way, has been set by Charles Clark down in 9th position. So car 44 lost a lot of time with the compensation time, but they've got pace in the second half of the race, and actually they're not far behind the Clutton and Ben Green scrap for what will become 6th place.
Yeah, that's right. So Hugo Cook is the real race leader with 9.8 seconds of an advantage over Ross Gunn, but Ross Gunn is lapping quicker. So the gap between the Lamborghini and the Aston Martin, it was about 9.6 seconds when they pitted. It's remained round about the same area, but it is coming down slightly with the quicker Gunn now, fully loaded to go after Hugo Cook. GT4 race lead is coming to an end for Hadley Simpson. And he's trying to time this so that he knows exactly when to come in to give Tom Holland the best chance. But with the compensation times to factor in, we will see exactly when they elect to make that pit stop. As a silver, the drivers should be fairly evenly matched. This is Tilbrook bailing to give way to Ben Barnicoat. We haven't seen enough of Ben in British GT, last seen really in GT4, but you put Ben Barnicoat behind the wheel of anything and then you pull the pin and stand well back, and he is always very spectacular. Really, really quick driver, Ben. Has a great reputation in the States, racing in the IMSA GTD class. This is the race leader then, so Hugo Cook, on his home soil, the Northwich driver comes across the line into the lead of the race officially now, if you like, seeing that Tilbrook has made his regulation pit stop. And that's the car that's chasing. That's Ross Gunn's Aston Martin. Andrew Howard, who did the first stint, the ice cream magnate. He is Beechdene ice cream. So more than anybody, he's loving this weather.
Yes, he's making back some money, I suspect, this weekend and enjoying his racing. He'll be enjoying seeing the lap times coming from Ross Gunn. He's consistently half a second or more a lap quicker than Hugo Cook, which tallies reasonably with their qualifying pace. It was about 4/10 the difference between them in the favour of Ross Gunn, and that's why Ross will be starting on pole position for race 2 later on. So there is the Beechdene Motorsports Aston Martin. The gap, 9 seconds, but a lap ago it came down by half a second. Last time, David, it came down by 6/10 or more, but is Gunn now asking too much of the tyres? Is Hugo Cook perhaps playing the long game, knowing that he's got this margin to fall back on?
If anybody knows how to preserve tyres on an Aston Martin, it is factory driver Ross Gunn, though. So in a sense, he's nothing to lose, has he now? He might as well just throw everything at this. So over hilltop, down towards his lots comes Ross Gunn. That's Rob Collard, work done for this race, but he will then do the second stint, bring the car home in race 2. And there, Charles Clark in and amongst the back markers, and it's ever so busy around him as he gets past the McLaren. Then he's on the back of Ben Green, and this is for 8th place now, the Mercedes-AMG just ahead of the BMW, but Charles Clark, no respect of reputation, trying to find a way past anywhere he can.
And this is very frustrating for Clark because he's got the fastest lap. His pace is quicker than all of the cars immediately ahead of him, but where can he make the move? Ben Green is going to make this difficult. Off has gone the Mahiki car, is that, I think, at Druids, and someone else as well. That was the BMW. Yes, it was 44. No, sorry, it's a McLaren. I beg your pardon, David.
67,
yeah.
Possibly, isn't it? The Simon Orange car. I wonder if there's oil down, which is why 2 cars have suddenly gone off, but there was no slippery surface flag that I could see, but yeah, 2 cars off in quick succession. This will give us a safety car, which is about a lap late, isn't it, for Morgan Tilbrook and Ben Barnicoat. It's also going to bunch things up. We'll have a wave by potentially for GT4, depending on track position. So there's the slippery surface flag now. So that, I was right, there is some liquid down, 2 cars off. This could not only be a safety car, Pierre, but a long one. And we're going to go full course yellow, we understand, to slow everybody down. So full course yellow is called for. 26 minutes of the race to go. Now Peter Daly, the race director, has this really tough call. Is this work going to take more than 26 minutes, or do I red flag the race?
Yes, we'll wait and see. For now, the pace slows. Everyone runs around at the same speed, so there's no gaining of track position for now, but yeah, we anticipate this may well become at least a full safety car period before too much longer. But that's a real shame for the 67 car there, because actually both Simon and Marcus have had good pace this weekend. But Marcus Clutton, who knows this place like the back of his hand, he was an instructor here for a long time before his professional racing career began, and that's been a big hit, hasn't it, for the GT4 McLaren into the barriers.
Yeah, that's Josh Stanton getting out of the car. That's, well, the look of it, just gone straight on. The race is still live, of course, so therefore into the pit lane comes 74 Hadley Simpson. This is perfect timing for them because they're losing less time, less track position under yellows than green flag conditions. 67, which had been taken over by Marcus Clutton, being pushed and then being able to reverse out of the gravel. You don't see that very often, but look at the witness marks on the road. The McLaren had hit the barrier. I wonder whether a tyre had let go or something, which is the slippery surface flag for debris. Anyway, we'll try and piece it all together, but I wonder whether that was either a curb or and then the car made a wobble, or a tyre had gone, which is what pitched Josh Stanton into the barrier, because he's not just gone straight on. There was an impact first, I think. So a big hit. I even question whether we see that car in race 2.
Yes, indeed. So, massive win for Innovation Racing, though. As you said, they had 25 seconds of extra time to serve in the pit lane, and they've done so under full course yellow. So look, they're at Cascades, whilst the Aston Martin, the BMW with whom they were battling, they're coming in now. They, of course, get to stop as well. But all of these GT4 cars pitting later, they've fallen into some good fortune here.
Well, they have, and they got their pit stop done, and the BMW that was the main opposition is now coming into the pits, and you know, this was where they were going to inherit the lead, wasn't it? Well, they've not had the chance to get into the pit lane because they've had a lot of lap under the full course yellow conditions. So 24 have been dealt a bad blow, bad hand by this full course yellow, which will remain in force, we understand, until every GT4 car has made its pit stop, and then we'll either go to a full safety car or a stoppage, depending on exactly how long it's going to take to remove cars and assess barrier damage. But first up, we want a level playing field for the GT4 pack. So you've got Will Oulton getting into the green Aston Martin. Now here's the replay. Contact, the Ginetta against the McLaren, right? So a big hit into the barrier for Josh Stanton. Then it goes around again.
And look at all of the radiator fluid, David, that goes all over the track. That's your slippery surface, isn't it?
Yeah, so that's what caught out Marcus Clutton. So the slippery surface flag was partly for debris, and as you say, partly for coolant. And then here's Marcus Clutton, who gets on the slippery bit and just goes straight on. And Charles Clark has a big slide as well in the BMW. So, yeah, that coolant down suddenly caught one or two people out. Well, that explains it. But the Ginetta has now been taken over by Jack Mitchell. But I think it was still Luke Shaw at the wheel at the time. And it was contact between those two. So Josh Stanton did not make a mistake. There was hip and shoulder, and at that part of the racetrack, very serious consequences. There's also an incident involving car number 40 for its pit stop. That's the James Townsend, now Joe Wheeler, Aston Martin. Change for second in GT4. BMW jumps ahead of Aston Martin, as was always going to happen, given the different pit stop times to which they must adhere. But this is going to be a really interesting order in GT4 once we have confirmation of it and everyone has cycled through the stops.
Yes, because there was the Colin Turkington BMW, which I think perhaps has gained out of this as well. We'll wait until they've completed a lap and the timing screen can catch up on itself. But the Innovation Ginetta, I think, will still be in a decent position because, OK, they came in just as the full course yellow was scrambled, but they've now been doing a full lap at full course yellow speed. So has everyone else, though, so it's not like they've lost any more time than the rest, I don't think, except for the extra 25 seconds of compensation time that they had to serve. But that is all served now, and Thomas Holland will have potentially a chance still to get himself a podium result. He brings that car up and over Dearsley as the Mahiki McLaren makes its way back out onto the racetrack. So a little two-thirds distance reset here. Hopefully we will get a bit of racing in still, but if we do go full safety car, which normally would be the process, it's going to bunch everyone together, and Hugo Cook will no longer have that significant margin to fall back on to Ross Gunn. So if Ross Gunn has got anything for him, this could be exactly the kind of situation that he and the Beach Team Motorsport squad were really hoping for. It does look as though he's got speed in the Aston. He showed that yesterday. But Hugo Cook is not going to be an easy man to pass. He said on the grid to Bryn Lucas that he was rooting for Rob Collard to make the move into Old Hall Corner. He knew how important that was. We'd been bigging it up long before the race even started. That got them the lead. But now Hugo's got the pressure on his shoulders of keeping hold of it in the final 20 minutes.
Yeah, so Ross Gunn, under full course yellow conditions, falls back. Safety car on track, but we are not yet under safety car conditions. What happens is that the safety car is put onto the circuit, and when the race director is happy, then it can position itself, or will have already positioned itself with the race leader, and then we can go to safety car conditions. The second race starts at, what, 4:45, I think? And there is, you can see, a lot of work to be done for number 59 McLaren, the Optimum team, with the very, very battered 59 McLaren that Josh Stanton was at the wheel of. Good to see he was okay out of the car, a little bit winded, a little bit sore, I'm sure, and that is certain to get looked at because it was a fairly brutal move from the Ginetta which triggered that incident. So we're still under full course yellow conditions. We've got 20 minutes of this race to go.
We do indeed. Very different day for Optimum than the one they celebrated 12 months ago, isn't it, when they won GT4 in both races.
Yeah,
and it was the Mark Warren and Jack Brown pairing, who of course have stepped up to GT3, who did all of the winning in GT4 last year, and it was their title rivals, the Century BMW, that found themselves in the barrier. And of course they then had to sit out race 2. Hopefully the same fate does not befall Optimum's GT4 McLaren, and they can get that car fixed before, as you quite rightly said, 3:45 when race 2 gets underway. That 90 car going well, isn't it? They qualified third,
yeah.
And Jack Brown in the car now. They've made this transition to GT3 pretty effectively.
Yeah, and Mark Warren, who was the driver in the first stint, also deserves a lot of credit because Mark's only been racing for about 4-5 seasons, if that, and he's been very successful in everything he's done. In Ginetta Academy, then the Porsche Sprint Challenge, where he was in the AM class but was beating the pros. He was winning outright more than once. I mean, he had a number of wins that year, and ever since he came into British GT, he has been very good. So he is one of the shiniest bronzes around, and does it in a very undemonstrative way, very modest chap, just gets on with his racing, does a really, really good job, Mark Warren. And he and Jack Brown have made a very good partnership. Jack himself, Caterhams and Ferraris, as well as GT success. And there, Hugo Cook, you can spot him. He's the one with the sinking heart now that he's caught the safety car. He knows what's coming. However, of course, until we get to safety car, the clock's still ticking, but then we might have a safety car lap or two. There's the possibility of a GT4 wave by, depending on track position. We now go safety car. What I'm getting to is that all the time the clock is ticking on down. And have a look behind Hugo Cook. There is Marcus Clutton. So at least he's got one car between himself and Ross Gunn by way of a cushion.
Indeed so. So that's not ideal for Ross Gunn, but I think he'll settle for that because in theory Marcus should be shown the blue flags. He should get out of the way pretty sharpish. Marcus knows what it's like to be fighting for a win and then have lapped cars getting involved, so I'm sure he won't want to be a decisive factor in this battle for the victory. But depending on how many laps of racing we get here between now and the flag, I think Ross Gunn will still have half a chance. There's definitely traffic then between Gunn and Brown, but Brown looked so far back in real time. He's only at launch as the leaders have exited Old Hall Corner, a big beneficiary of the safety car here because he will, okay, potentially have some traffic in front of him, but he'll be a lot closer to the lead than he was. And Martin Plowman also inherits 4th position out of this. Good run this for Paddock, isn't it?
It is indeed, and as you say, at the moment Jack Brown a long way back in terms of where he is on the racetrack, but they'll all bunch up before they're allowed to go racing once again. So the line of cars will eventually truncate. Where does this put number 77 McLaren after its earlier spin? The car of Ben Barnicoat now 10th. You're looking at Martin Plowman here running in 4th place, and he'll be on the attack against Jack Brown. That's going to be a really good McLaren battle. Two different teams running their cars as well. We understand, going to have a wave by because the GT4 leader is behind some of the category opposition, so they need to put all the GT4 cars back on the lead lap. It's up to the team to work out if it's eligible for wave by, but then there is the provision from race control, and they want that done as quickly as, because all of this, as we keep saying, is eating into the laps available.
Yes, good news is, though, I don't think there was any barrier damage up at the water tower section of the track, which is often what's caused delays here in the past, so that's good news. So once the track is cleared of debris and fluid and gravel and all the other stuff that shouldn't be on it, hopefully it shouldn't be as long a delay as perhaps we've seen in previous years, which is good news for us. The one person who would have been rooting for there to be a bit of barrier repair work is Hugo Cook, because he knows he's going to have some defending to do here, isn't he?
Absolutely. So Ross Gunn in 2nd place from nearly 10 seconds back, now 2.5 seconds back, but he, as Andy made the point, has to get past Marcus Clutton on the restart. The GT4 cars are now going for the wave by the look of it, because they have You can see Jack Mitchell gone, Darren Turner gone to the inside. So the GT4 cars go through. Why do we have a wave by? It is to put the GT4 cars that were behind the leading GT4 car back onto the lead lap, so they aren't compromised, because of course the safety car picks up the GT3 leader, therefore it's sort of bad luck for the GT4 cars. So to put all of the GT4 cars onto the lead lap, the wave by for the GT4 cars that were ahead of the race leader, therefore need to go round to the back of the queue.
Yeah, it's a really good move, this. It never used to be the way. I remember a race at Brands Hatch a number of years ago where we had an early safety car. We were left with only about 3 GT4 cars on the lead lap, and it's sort of ruined the race a little bit. This keeps things much more fair. It's not the GT4 driver's fault that they were the wrong side of the leader when the safety car came out. So it's a really good call. Takes an extra minute or two to organise, but I do think when we've got time, it's well worth doing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's certainly fairer for those GT4 cars, as we say. So now within GT4, the number 24 BMW does lead from 21. And so it's BMW versus Aston Martin. Third is 84 from the pit lane, now Revy Lake. And fourth is 74th. So Tom Holland's Ginetta that pitted earlier on, that did not keep its class lead. It has fallen to 4th place. I thought it had managed to stay ahead of the BMW and the Aston Martin, but it is not to be. It was much longer in the pits, so that car falls down the order. So the GT4 lead car is Chomp, the BMW, and this is a decent result in the offing for Revy Lake, the youngest driver on the grid. Starting in the pit lane, an engine change after Saturday qualifying, and a podium beckons.
Yes, they've played this really well, haven't they, to end up in 3rd position, and on the tail of the 2nd place car, Will Oulton. But Will, I think, will be feeling quite confident, actually, about his chances of going for a win here, because he's got Brandon Templeton up ahead of him in the number 24 BMW, who Will was 8/10ths faster than in qualifying yesterday. There was a big difference in the number 24 car's performance across the 2 sessions, whereas the 21 Aston Martin was pretty consistent. So Will Oulton should feel that he's got a pace advantage over Templeton. The question is, how far back is he and how long will he have to do something about it?
This is Jack Mitchell, who is the Pro-Am leader within GT4. This is the overall race leader, Hugo Cook. 67 is a lap down. There's no wave by in GT3. And at Barwell, now the conversations are about what Hugo needs to do to fend off Ross Gunn. We've got 13 minutes and change on the clock. That BMW is your lead car in the GT4 category. And this is Ross Gunn, who will want to get past Marcus Klassen as quickly as he possibly can. They're going up towards Druids now. And the safety car will be in this time, we are being told. So safety car in this lap. And it's therefore up to Hugo Cook to decide when he floors the throttle. The lights go out atop the safety car, and we are ready to go. Back racing at Oulton Park.
Yes, we are. So the Lotus safety car pulls away, and Hugo Cook needs to time this now. When does he go? Early or late? It looks as though he's really stacking the field up. He needs to try and use Marcus Clutton to his advantage, except Marcus is not a slow driver. He will go with Hugo, I'm sure. But if he can gain even a car length or so advantage over Ross Gunn, it's worth doing. He stamps on the throttle now over Deer Leap and pulls a length or so over the McLaren, which is not yet getting out of the way of Ross Gunn. They turn into Old Hall Corner then, so we ignore the blue and orange car for now. It's not there fighting for a podium position, and actually Marcus might feel he's got the pace here to unlap himself.
So let's see. Ross Gunn not able to get up with Marcus Klassen. Yeah, Marcus would like to get himself back on the lead lap as the GT4 cars sweep downhill as well. Jack Collins now having handed over to Brandon Templeton. That car fending off the Will Oulton driven Aston Martin. So Hugo Cook quite happy to have Marcus Klassen behind him, and Ross Gunn actually is not staying with them, is he? The Aston has fallen back a little bit as there the BMW goes through. So that is Brandon Templeton heading for a win potentially. 61 is Colin Turkington behind, but that's a lap adrift.
Yes, but then it's Will Oulton who's rapidly closing. That is the 2nd place GT4 car. Turkington wants to unlap himself from the 24, and that would leave them very vulnerable to Will Oulton behind.
And you can see that Templeton is busy defending. It's not really a race that he's having because it's with a lapped car, but by keeping Turkington at bay, he's got protection, hasn't he, against the Aston. There is Ben Barnicoat, who's also been helped slightly by this because he can now try to gain a few places. Well, he's got past Duncan Cameron, he's got past Aaron Walker, so that's 2 places gained by Ben on this green flag lap. It's not Duncan Cameron anymore, it's Matt Griffin. So Ben Barnicoat is on a mission. That safety car has helped them.
Yeah, most definitely so, and he will want to try and gain a few more places before the end of the race. There's the leader, Rob Collard, and yeah, you mentioned it, you're absolutely right. Ross Gunn not really looking that rapid on the opening lap of the restart, but nor did Andrew Howard at the initial start of the race. And in qualifying on Saturday, David, the Aston Martin's fastest lap times came 7 or 8 minutes into the session, so maybe it's a car that takes a while to switch the tyres on. Let's see, you're riding here with Ben Green, 6th, having relayed Kevin Say, and still Charles Clark with the fastest lap of the race to his credit. Ben Barnicoat is 8th and could yet do better than that. We've still got just under 11 minutes of the race to go, so it is Cook from Gunn, from Jack Brown 3rd, it is Martin Plowman 4th, Jared Waberski 5th, and this car, the Mercedes of Ben Green, in 6th into Island Bend. That's Alex Martin's Barwell Lamborghini Huracan just up the road ahead. No way through on the inside at Shell, however, so Ben Green trying to work out where and when he can make a move. Yes, and Martin Plowman just ahead of them in 4th position as well, so they're all stacking up a little bit behind the Paddock Motorsport McLaren, who in fairness is not being dropped by Jack Brown. Plowman, of course, a gold-graded driver as the Innovation Ginetta throws it up the inside of the Mahiki McLaren. That is 4th position, is it not? Yes, 3rd place in GT4. Do not count Innovation out of this either. They seem to have some strong pace now that the race has resumed. Yeah, Tom Holland absolutely flying, so goes storming up the inside there and puts one ahead of Revy Lake, so that spoils our youngest driver on the podium story. Meantime, in Formula BMW, Colin Turkington trying to unlap himself in GT4 from Brandon Templeton as they come through his lops. Behind, you've got 21, Will Oulton. And then the next car in the GT4 battle now will be that number 74 Ginetta. So going nicely here is Will Oulton as he makes the climb up the hill in the Aston. But Brandon Templeton is having a rough ride. Colin Turkington wants to get past. Templeton is at liberty to defend, but it is certainly holding him up. Now you can see that Ross Gunn is closing on the lapped Marcus Clutton, but the gap first to second is up to 2 seconds with 9 minutes to go. Yes, he did match Hugo Cook's pace last time, did Ross Gunn, almost to the 100th of a second, so he's now starting to find some more speed, and he'll now be really wanting Marcus Clutton to step aside and let him go after the leader. We'll see whether or not that's what happens. We ride on board here with Ben Green's Mercedes, looking back at the headlight flashing BMW of Charles Clark, who wants to try and move through again. That BMW has looked quick. It has the fastest lap of the race so far, a 34.0, which is about 7/10 or so away from Sven Muller's lap record from last year. The warmer temperatures putting paid to any chance of a new lap record, I suspect, but the BMW is quicker than those ahead. Can it find a way through? Funny we talk about Sven Muller as setting a lap record last year because the Porsche had a really tough year, but he was quick in the right hands. So now Ross Gunn has got himself past Marcus Clutton. Gunn has his sights set on Hugo Cook for the lead. 2 seconds between them as they come out of Knickerbrook, make the climb now. Up Clay Hill, under the footbridge, the water tower on the right, and then you set the car up for Druids into that double apex right that starts here. More or less matched Hugo Cook in the middle sector despite the overtake on Clutton, so I do think Gunn's got some pace in hand, but 8 minutes is not really long enough, is it, to gain a 2-second gap, and then, you know, the not so easy task of getting past the Lamborghini, which I'm sure will be a challenge. 4th place battle plunges down through Lodge Corner and back up and over Deers Lead. Martin Plowman just keeping, for now, Waberski at arm's length, but maybe only because Waberski is distracted by Ben Green and Charles Clark behind him. Yeah, the queue is building again, isn't it? And then you've got Ben Barnicoat not that far behind, with his next target being Charles Clark. But first, Ben has got to get past the Josh Buchan Ferrari that lost a lap after it was tipped out of the way by that McLaren. So he's not going to make life easy, that's for sure. 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th in a line here. Plowman ahead of Waberski, ahead of Green, and then in 7th place it is Charles Clark, as Andy's been saying, the car, the BMW, the blue BM there, looking back at it with the fastest lap of the race to its credit. The clock has 7 minutes to change, still to run. Indeed so. Waberski, of course, would like to get past Plowman not only for 4th position, but because he'd like to then chase after Jack Brown for a Silver Am class win. Jack Brown in the number 90 McLaren leads that class at the moment, but he's only a second and a half or so up the road from this queue, the yellow and black car. So the number 78 Lamborghini has extra incentive to try and get this move made, if not just to gain the overall track position, but maybe go after a class victory. They're joined now, look, by the number 13 Ferrari, which is a lap down, but also there, 77 McLaren in the hands of Ben Barnicoat, who is one of the fastest cars on track right now, and in fact set his personal best lap a lap ago to latch on to the tail of this queue. Just dredging the memory bank, I think Hugo Cook is on course for his 2nd win here in as many years. It'll be Rob Collard's 3rd win in 3, and for Barwell, some crude maths would suggest a 10th
win with Lamborghini at Oulton Park. So the numbers keep on falling. It's always been a happy hunting ground, Oulton Park, for the Barwell Lamborghini team. And Hugo Cook, who has done a lot of endurance racing, whether it was Brit Car before British GT and GT World Challenge Europe last year, brings the car home. Well clear of this real scrum now for 4th place. Martin Plowman ahead of Jared Waberski. And Ben Barnicoat frustrated because he's got that lapped Ferrari matching his pace, but on a different lap, can't get past it, can't make progress.
Yeah, Josh Buchan, reigning TCR Australia champion, so he's had much of his success in front-wheel drive machinery, but acclimatising nicely to the rear-wheel drive Ferrari. He might be a lap down after that spin for the car earlier on, but he's keeping pace with the cars around him. I do think maybe he's going to have to step out of the way of Ben Barnicoat before much longer. This gap looks to have come down slightly now. Looks like Plowman maybe only a length or so ahead at this point of Waberski in the Lamborghini. But where do you make the move? When it's the pros in the car, David, this has been the age-old problem, hasn't it? They're all so evenly matched. They don't make many mistakes. You've got to really force the issue to get past. Yeah,
it's the pro with the sharpest elbows, isn't it? Hugo Cook, then, 5 minutes to go. He's going to get 3 more laps out of it. The gap is coming down against Ross Gunn, but it doesn't matter if Hugo only wins by 1,000th, as long as he wins. Even if Ross Gunn there gets onto the back of the Lamborghini, then he's going to try to find a way past, which is not easy. But certainly Gunn is on a mission now as Rob Collard looks on. Over the line goes Hugo Cook. 4 3/4 minutes to go. We've got another one under investigation, and it's Marcus Clatton for the wave-by procedure. Eligible for wave-by, was he, in GT3? Anyway, Marcus Clatton is being looked at for something under the wave-by procedure, and we currently are on lap 31. The lead gap is down to 1.3 seconds. We're not done yet. Yeah,
3/4 of a second gained that lap by Ross Gunn, and half a second in the middle sector. That's what I was querying, because it looked like maybe Hugo had had a moment somewhere to lose half a second in one sector, especially the middle sector, where the mid-engine Lambo should really, in theory, be pretty strong. It came down by another 3/10 sector 1, so again, the more laps that Ross Gunn gets in the Aston Martin, the quicker it gets. It seems to be a long-run car, and that might just pay dividends with 4 minutes to go. At this rate, he will get there. He might only have a lap or so to make the move stick, but I'm sure he'll give it a go.
Yeah, he's going to have to be brutal, I think, isn't he? So too is Ben Green in order to get past Jared Waberski. We understand that Marcus Clatton is being looked at because he was weaving to keep the tyres warm, which he shouldn't have done under the wave-by. So that's why he's being looked at. This is what's going on in GT4, where you've got Brandon Templeton still ahead. Colin Turkington is not fighting him. He's a lap down. So it's 24 BMW versus 21 Aston Martin for the GT4 lead.
Yes, and Thomas Holland third in the Innovation Ginetta, not lapping any quicker than the cars ahead. There it is, the black and green car. It is slowly closing up to this group, but more or less matching the pace set by the race leader last time was Thomas Holland, a 43.9, in fact 4/10 slower than race leader Brandon Templeton. So I think third might be as good as it gets for Innovation, but it's still been an incredibly strong start to the season for the Ginetta squad, and this is good points and crucially not quite as significant a compensation time to carry into race 2.
Change there, look in the background, Ben Barnicoat going ahead of Charles Clark for 7th place. You're looking back from Ben Green's Mercedes, and Ben Barnicoat has not done yet then. Any opportunity Ben can find to get past the car, he will take it as he comes now along Lakeside Straight. One of Ben's great passions in life when he finds the time is to go and watch, and indeed has once or twice taken part in Formula 1 stock car racing. Not suggesting he's going to be using any contact to get past, but he is certainly a proper racer. This is the move in replay, up the inside. It started coming out of Druids, it's done at Lodge Corner. Beautiful.
Yep, textbook stuff that into Lodge Corner, by far the best overtaking opportunity on the circuit. Clark tried to come back at him into Old Hall, but ultimately not able to pull the pin and make the move stick. New fastest lap of the race, by the way, David. Ross Gunn, a 1:33.9, another half a second nearly gained last time by.
Yeah, and that's brought the gap down to 7/10 of a second, so the race leaders are making their way up towards Druids here. Look, you can see how much closer the gap is. Hugo Cook is going to get one more lap out of it at the end of this, potentially. Ross Gunn running out of opportunities, running out of time. A flying lap at the moment is a 33.9, the best lap of the race from Ross Gunn. Fastest lap set on lap 31. Shows you how he's charging. Up towards the line they come, and as they break the beam, there might be time for two. Just, it's going to be very, very tight this. This could be the last lap. They could just squeeze one more by a few tenths of a second.
Yes, and the gap came down by another fraction last time, but now Ross is starting to get into the dirty air, isn't he? We don't think of this hugely in GT racing, certainly in comparison to slicks and wings single-seaters, but these cars do generate a lot of downforce, a lot of dirty air behind, and if you get within a second, 3/4 of a second maybe of the car ahead, that might just be enough to start to lose you grip. Gunn's previous lap of 34.1 was a couple of tenths slower than his previous one. He still has a clear pace advantage though. He was another tenth faster in sector 1, but making the move will not be easy.
Hugo Cook needs to speed up a little, doesn't he? I know it's easier said than done, but there are two reasons. One is to try to get away from Ross Gunn, and the other is to try to time this to perfection to make it the last lap. It comes down towards the Hislop chicane. Ross Gunn getting closer. 35 seconds on the clock now as they make the power uphill. Back markers in the way as well, so if Hugo Cook is slightly delayed, that is going to make sure this is the last lap potentially. So the clock ticking on down, 22 seconds. And this is Gunn's chance, maybe, as Hugo Cook is delayed behind the Aston Martin. Now to the inside goes the Lamborghini. It's now or never for Ross Gunn. Absolutely nose to tail they come down towards Lodge Corner. Gunn to the outside line. He'll try to get the inside as they sprint up to the line. 6 seconds, 5 seconds, 4. Making their way up towards the timing line. Is there a checkered flag to greet them? Can't see one. It's hidden behind the timing tower if it's there. But yes, the hour is up. They do go across the line. The flag is there virtually. And Hugo Cook wins by 0.2 of a second, and there is delight and relief in equal measure at Barwell. Rob Collard, Chris Needell, the commercial manager of the team, celebrate. It was very, very tight indeed. We'll try and get a confirmed winning time, but as the cars came across the line, there was no time to actually get a physical checkered flag out, but the hour is up. It was time to perfection. Hugo Cook wins, and Ross Gunn threw everything at that.
Yes, absolutely so. I knew when they were catching that GT4 car at sort of Knickerbrook that they were likely to trip over it at Druids, and they did, or at least Hugo Cook did, but he kept his cool. I think lesser drivers might have made a mistake there, fumbled that into Lodge Corner, but he held the car in the apex and held on to the lead. Now, Will Oulton has finally cleared Colin Turkington, but a little bit too late, I think. He's a second or so behind Brandon Templeton as the GT4 leaders pitch their way through Druids for the final time. Oulton, again, has thrown everything at this, but it looks as though Aston Martin might come up just short in both GT3 and GT4.
Good drive, though, this by Brandon Templeton and Jack Collins, heading for a maiden win as they come now through the right-hander of Lodge. It is going to be a GT4 win for Brandon Templeton, for Jack Collins, for Century Motorsport, a BMW win at Oulton Park in GT4. And don't forget, before the pit stops, we were being told about smoke coming from that car from the pits, and whether or not they had a problem that they needed to manage. Well, race that had everything in a sense, some really good battling, sadly a big impact, but then the full course yellow and safety car period that bunched everybody up and gave us a really good race to the flag. That's a car that's under investigation, the Jack Mitchell Luke Shaw Ginetta, for its part in the incident. So provisionally Jack Mitchell brings it home as the Pro-Am GT4 winner, but that is by no means guaranteed. Well done, Hugo Cook, because he had to cope with the pressure not only from behind but also making sure he got that restart right after the safety car. And Hugo Cook, who, if you look on the side of the car, you'll see the badge for the BRDC's Rising Star programme, looking after young British talent, underlining why he is part of the programme. And well done, Brandon Templeton and Jack Collins as well. New partnership for this year, and it's gelling nicely.
Indeed so, and remember, Jack Collins came within a couple of feet of collecting Morgan Tilbrook's McLaren at turn 1, took to the grass to avoid, dropped to 5th, and they did a really good job, that pairing, to get themselves not only back into contention, but through the pit stop times, back into the lead of the race. It's a Silver Ram victory for Optimum's Jack Brown and Mark Warren pairing, so their winning streak continues at Oulton Park, even if it is just within the Silver Am class. Rob Collard's streak, of course, stays alive as well. 3 consecutive years now that he's won a British GT race here at a venue that he's always gone well at.
Yes, we'll have to rename a corner in his honour soon, won't we? But the cars now make their way into Parc Fermé. Hugo Cook and Rob Collard, the GT3 winners, Jack Collins and Brandon Templeton, the GT4 winners, and a really interesting race, that's for sure. The categories then have their sub-classes, so in GT3, Pro-Am goes to Hugo Cook and Rob Collard, and Silver Am to Jack Brown and Mark Warren, who were third overall. GT4 Pro-Am to Luke Shaw and Jack Mitchell, and the Silvers and the outright GT4 winners are Brandon Templeton and Jack Collins. So 33 laps done. Rob Collard and Hugo Cook making up for the car catching fire at Silverstone and not finishing. Come home the winners with Ross Gunn and Andrew Howard second. Mark Warren and Jack Brown third, ahead of Mark Smith and Martin Plowman. It's fifth for the other Barwell Lambo of Alex Martin and Jared Waberski, with Kevin Say and Ben Green finally getting some points for sixth, ahead of Morgan Tilbrook and Ben Barnicoat after their turn one spin in 7th place. And from 14th, Andy, the GT4 story.
Indeed so, where it was Century Motorsports on top, bouncing back from their sort of disastrous Oulton Park a year ago, really, with Jack Collins and Brandon Templeton getting the win. Jess Hawkins and Will Oulton had to settle for second, but they'll be starting towards the pointy end again for race 2, whilst Thomas Holland and Hadley Simpson complete the top 3. Then it was the Mahiki McLaren and the Torre Verde GT Ginetta 5th. Then it was the Grange Racing Aston Martin 6th, the Torre Verde Porsche in 7th, ahead of the WSR BMW, which we saw right in amongst the GT4 lead battle. Right then, lots to unpack after what was an entertaining second round of the British GT Championship. Down in the Parc Fermé area to begin doing just that is Bryn Lucas.
Thanks very much, Andy. Of the 21 races that Barwell have entered in British GT, you've now won 10 of those. It's a phenomenal result. You've won a few times here, haven't you, over your time? That was a bit worrying for you at the end.
Yeah, it was. It was a great race to be back at Oulton Park. It's always a fantastic venue on the calendar. So super pleased, and it's always been a great track to me in the past from touring car days, and then back in 2020, and I think we had a pole and a win here with Ricky, and in 2024. So it's fantastic. I love it to bits, and the Lamborghini Hurricane's going really well.
Remember the tears when you and Ricky won here as well. Hugo, I suspect there were some tears in the cockpit when you saw that Ross Gunn car looming large at the end.
Yeah, to be honest, I was quite comfortable for the first half, and then we lost the brakes quite a lot, so it was quite tricky to drive the car. But yeah, the GT4 at the end, I thought, but anyway, I tried to back him up and then get the drives, and it worked. So.
For your championship tilt, this puts you back in a much better position. It's exactly what you needed.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like last year we missed the first round, unfortunately, and then this year having the DNF at Silverstone was like a real blow. But to come back here now, get front row start and a win is fantastic, and we're now looking forward to building on in race 2.
Go and cool off and get ready.
So great drive by Hugo Cook and Rob Collard. We'll try and catch a word with our GT4 winners as well. But for Barwell, Oulton Park continues to be a happy hunting ground. You can tell it's a circuit Rob Collard likes as well.
Yes, and he knows how to use every inch of it, doesn't he?
Yeah.
We're seeing the super slow-mo through the Britain chicane. So a very successful run for Barwell. Pretty successful start to the weekend for Century Motorsport as well in GT4. And another nervy finish with an eventual winning margin of just under a second in GT4. But it was the number 24 car of Jack Collins and Brandon Templeton that held on for victory. And Bryn is catching up with them now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can't overtake here. It's really tricky to get round, and yet you did exactly that. You overtook and you held on to it. To start with your first stint, or the stint you had, it went to plan.
Yeah, it did. I mean, we knew that everyone else had a pit stop penalty from Silverstone, so we just made sure that we held that gap, came out, passed the car to Brandon. We were in first place, did an amazing job holding it after the safety car. We had a nice rear gunner in WSR BMW as well, so really happy with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Colin Turkington knows this place, doesn't he, pretty well? I mean, what a great result for you guys and a great start to your day here at Oulton Park.
Yeah, really happy. I think we deserved something better at Silverstone, so it's even sweeter to do it like this. And yeah, it wasn't hard. It wasn't easy keeping them behind. I could see them, in my rearview camera quite a lot. So it was a good race. Big thanks to the team. We dialed in the setup, and it's wonderful.
Well, it's chomped up one win. Well done.
Yeah, thank you very much. Cheers.
Thank you very much.
Can Chomp become the champ by the end of the year? Well, BMW taking honours in GT4, Will Oulton, Jess Hawkins second, and Tom Holland and Hadley Simpson finishing third, the Silverstone winners in the Innovation Ginetta. Sets us up nicely, of course, for the second race, doesn't it? Because then different compensation times to factor in for different cars.
Indeed so the 24 car will have extra time to take in that pit stop later on today, but they'll do their best to try and bounce back, I'm sure, and get another race victory. So, round number 2 of the British GT Championship in scorching sunshine at Oulton Park saw Rob Collard get the job done from the outside of row 1 to give the Barwell Lamborghini the race lead. There was drama behind though for Morgan Tilbrook, tipped into a spin by the paddock McLaren, and that car would spend the rest of the race fighting back. The 24 BMW was off the road in GT4 after a disastrous opening lap, really, for Jack Collins, dropping as low as 5th in the car that had started on the front row of the grid. Morgan Tilbrook was trying to fight his way back through the order after that lap 1 spin. Here, getting up the inside of the number 15 Mercedes of Ian Loggy, a well-timed move that started at Lodge. He then tried to repeat the feat against the Rodin Ferrari. There was contact at Lodge Corner, though. Around went Cameron Campbell, and he would spend the best part of a lap trying to recover. Then into the pit window, shortly after which there was drama in GT4. The Optimum number 59 McLaren tipped into a spin at the Druids area of the circuit. That scattered radiator fluid on the track, which caught out Marcus Clutton and led to a safety car period. Then it was a sprint to the finish. The Innovation Ginetta got itself back onto the podium in GT4, having spent a lot of time in pit lane with various compensation time to be served. Then Monaco picked up where Morgan Tilbrook left off with a brilliant comeback drive to get solidly within the top 10, whilst on the last lap, Hugo Cook tripped over a back marker at Druids. Ross Gunn had one chance to try and steal the victory away, but couldn't quite get alongside the Lamborghini, which held on to claim another victory for Collard and Cook, and what has historically been a happy hunting ground for them here in the northwest of the country. Race 2 to come later on today.